See, Mao is still there. We've lost Michael. Hopefully he'll come on back now. And I also see that in our room we still have 5 attendees. So I'm not sure what that surge was. But now we're there on principle number 2 or 3 of the new economy. If you've got the 5 principles there up your sleeve, people wait for Michael to come back.
Yeah, we'll wait for Michael to come back. If it does not, I will elaborate.
So we spoke about the 5 principles. He started speaking about the 5 principles, and he covered power relations and ownership.
Yes.
What are the 3 principles?
I think one of the key principles that he was probably going to talk about, and I'm not sure about his thought of my trail here, is I think is about the idea of how do you value or revalue time as a key resource. So we need to be able to basically we need to be able to remunerate the use of time, even though it's not new ideas like time banking, for example, where these are non-monetary tools that one could potentially use to value capital, because how we measure GDP, for example, is that we focus only on the things that where there's a material exchange of goods and services, but does not really take the value that one has. So, for example, I've got a 3-year-old kid, and if I ask a friend of mine to take care, basically to come and take care of my son as we go out to do some other activity, that's not recorded as an economic activity unless a physical transaction has an exchange has taken place. So how do we value time and incorporate those into measuring value? So I think that's one of the things I was going to talk about. And I think the third probable principle is around the idea of cooperation and building solidarity and so on. So with new concepts of like co-production and collective insurance, how do we work together much more efficiently as opposed to the traditional way? Oh, Michael is here. Michael, take over.
Yes. Well, apologies. I was talking and I then just flicked between screens and saw it frozen. Oh gosh, was it a long time ago that I fell out of the system?
Yeah, you would.
No.
You covered the first 2 principles, and then Mark started talking about valuing of time as a principle and collaboration in working together. So I'm not sure if those are the principles that you were going to talk about as well.
Ah, goodness, so what, you only got through the 2 sort of descriptions of the principles, not even the summing up? Oh, goodness me, sorry about that, what a system.
It does look, we've got a few people on the call still there. Some people had to leave, and I think some had technical difficulty, and I think perhaps some of the technical difficulty has due to the super admin having frozen, so. And I think that's also why it kicked all of us off the call. So I think there was some glitch there in the Google Hangout system, and restarted our webinar. So we've got a few people. So Gabriel, Edward, Abida, Jacobina, and Trevor. There's only 5 people left on the call from the 20 odd that we were. So clearly something went haywire here. But the 5 of you that are here, can you just type into the chat that you are still there, that we know that we're not looking into the abyss. Okay, so there, Edward is back. Let's keep talking about the new economy. We're also going to talk a bit about the coaching approach that we're going to follow, and some of the tools that we will be using on the program. But I think it may be useful, Michael and if you guys do have another hour, I'll give another hour, that we actually call people back into the webinar because it looks like today was not a good day. It may be a sunny day. It may be a sunny day outside, but Google Analytics let us down here. It looks like they kicked off a lot of people from the call. So it is also, of course, like all new things for us in the first year. So we'll be learning about it, and we don't need to be ashamed about that. But yeah, so Michael, no, we're not going to let you go now. So don't mute yourself. It's very interesting what you're saying. You know, sort of. So I'm sorry to ask you to repeat yourself, but you did speak about the power relations and ownership options, new ways of ownership. What were the other three principles that you were going to speak about? Did you cover?
Yes, no, absolutely. Sorry about that, Christoff. Yeah, so the third one I was mentioning, I mentioned to myself, was revalue and redistribute paid and unpaid time, and I was referring to an example I gave at my presentation at the launch event of a Japanese social time bank system whereby the sort of support that elderly people need but often falls outside of the marketplace. Well, they've created a system where if you have an elderly relative in the north of Japan, you live in the south of Japan, you can give an hour of your time supporting an elderly person in your local area. That then hour of time can be banked by your elderly relative for them to actually draw upon from someone in their local area. So a very intelligent way of actually bringing, or recognizing rather, activity which goes on outside of the marketplace but which is crucial to our well-being and underpinning our societies and our systems. So that was one. That was the third one. So the first one was democratizing power relationships. Second one was democratizing ownership. Third was revaluing and redistribute paid and unpaid time. Fourth one was solidarity, cooperation and mutual aid. And I was meaning there's a value in actually coming together to cooperate, which is sort of the antithesis almost of the market, the neoliberal market competition sort of example. And, I was giving an example, again to myself, whereby maybe, I've heard of this in the Western Cape, in the rural areas, actually having small farmers pool their resources in order to buy a tractor or to buy resources which they share. This is not traditional behavior, and yet it pools risk, it pools resource, it uses resources more efficiently. Okay, so collective insurance, if you like. These are great examples as a fourth principle. And the fifth principle, Christoff and everyone, was simply to respect ecological limits. So we're looking at activity that recognizes that we are on a planet with finite resources, and we simply can't have this linear model of sort of pull from the ground, make and discard. We need to turn it into a circular form whereby waste is either designed out of the system or waste continually goes back in as a feedstock, infinitum, if you like. So those were the 5 key principles that I was suggesting to people on the call. Just have a think about whether or not your intervention matches one or more of those ones, because for those who are not fortunate to get on the program, that will help you to think, to improve your impact and really sort of fit into the new economy model. For those who do come onto the program, will actually advance that thinking further and help you to perhaps expand what you currently do, the great stuff you currently do, and I've looked through a number of applications which are super, expand even further what you do and the impact that you have.
Great stuff. I feel I need to apologize for the people that aren't on the call anymore, but of course they won't hear us. But now we can make a plan to reach out.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, this was a first trial, so and we recognize, technological limitations sometimes. So I hear I'm hearing an echo, but yeah, we can make up for them at another time for sure. Yeah.
Okay, good. So for those that are still on the call, and I like talking about the work that I do because I find that there's a lot of innovation as such, and perhaps even contribution towards the ideas that Michael set out today for us in the work that we do around planning. And that is one of the elements that we will be bringing into the accelerator. There's a product that we've developed called the Flow Canvas, which is one based plan. In fact, I put on the board at the back here that we use a lot. There's a recent example of a business case that we did that's explained there, written down in Koki, But basically it reduces the sometimes erroneous task of planning to being able to describe it on a single page, but not losing the essence of what it is about. So we can simplify things, but we can't simplify it too much because then we're going to lose the substance that we need in making sure that we can work towards success. So in the program, we'll be focusing I've got some slides I want to show you. I need to share that. That takes a second to set up. But the important thing being, you guys can see, so I think what I'll do too is just make sure that I select myself, and then if other people speak, they won't be heard. But the important thing there being that when we talk about business, sometimes, whether it is in the new economy space or outside of the new economy space, we can get bogged down into these ideas that are promoted through business schools, which aren't always very helpful, especially for entrepreneurs or people running their own businesses. In fact, some of those concepts do disservice to us being successful in our businesses because we try to copy what big companies are doing instead of finding what we're strong in and what we can do. And so the two very important things that I've found in the past 20 years that I've been working with entrepreneurs that really elevates what we do to a different level. And if we keep doing those things, it leads to success and impact that we can have. Now, in the traditional way, you measure impact, of course, through the profit that the company makes. But in a lot of these businesses, and especially there is definitely a surge of new focus on purpose and about making impact and making a difference in what we do in our businesses too. Some people call that social entrepreneurship. So that word hasn't been mentioned here today, but it's a word that's been bandied around quite a bit nowadays to say that if we're in business, we also make an impact. And I think the new economy, social entrepreneurship fits into the thinking of new economy. And so a lot of people may recently have been exposed to that idea, that an entrepreneur can work on a business and be successful in the economy, sort of like the bottom line of the business may be healthy, but it may also have a very positive impact on the broader society in different ways. Many of those businesses are operating in the bottom of the pyramid too. But these are two ideas that I want to share with you today. First is that if you aim for success, is play your best game, don't play someone else's game. And the second is you need a plan, but you don't need a complicated plan. In fact, a simple plan is more beneficial. It helps you better to achieve the results that you want. And those are the two ideas that I promote in most of my coaching and support work in the training programs that we run and so on. It's also two of the principles that we'll be applying in the accelerator as we go forward. So, firstly, what is this thing about playing your best game? So, yeah, it is like a soccer player, sort of. So, Ronaldo plays in the front, just back from the front, in fact, because that's his best position. He's not the goalkeeper, even if he's maybe the captain of the team in some instances. He knows what his position is that he needs to play, and he focuses on playing that based on his strengths. So playing your best game is definitely something that sometimes we neglect because we focus so much on the business, and this is the business model, and this is the business that we need to proceed with, and we forget that we are the operators of that business. So how do we know what my best game is? In what way can you establish what is the best position that we need to play on the field? And that's kind of the obvious question, I suppose, if you buy into this principle that we should be focusing on our strengths. Now, there are different ways of doing that. Sometimes we just naturally find our best position to play, but there are some things we can use to guide us. And this is what I've found, is that there's something based on a comprehensive description of how things fit together around 5 questions, or it's also called 5 energies. So, by the way, Michael and Mao and Kiwi, you guys can answer if any of you others, Edward, Gabriel, Jacobine, Trevor, whoever else, Abida, if you want to type in there in the chat, what are these 5 questions to all answers? Do you know that?
I know the answer to the universe. That's 42, isn't it?
Okay, no, that's too many. That's too complicated. It's the 5. It's what we do, who we do it with, when and where we do it, how we do it, and why we do it. Those are the 5 basic questions. By the way, in previous businesses that I set up and ran, it was in the media field where I had employed journalists and people that were writing, and they were telling me that the best way to write an introduction in fact, at the university they get taught that journalists that if you want to write a good introduction, you answer those 5 questions. So it gives you a comprehensive description of what it is that you're about. And we can use that in describing our businesses, which I'll come to just now. But by the way, in us as people, those 5 questions also show up. And it shows up in different permutations. So for some people, they're much more in the how, the detail of doing things, the engineer type people. While others are much more in the what, sort of the innovators, the people that are creative and design things, or some are in the who, those are that are the connectors, the networkers, sort of the marketers. Or the when and where people are those that understand the value of things, they maybe care about the value of things, they may be in the caring industries more so than in others, or the trading industries because they see the value of things. And of course, why is that bigger question of purpose? And this, when we talk about the new economy, the why is in fact quite an important one because it talks about purpose and the impact that we have and the reason for us to be in business, which is not to make money, it may be the result of business, but it is the difference that we make in doing so. So this I'm quite passionate about in promoting. The idea that we need to understand how these 5 questions are showing up in us. It's a bit like looking through the world, at the world through different colored glasses. And I can have an argument with you, Mal, because you look through pink glasses and I look through green glasses. And you'll say, no, this looks like a pink whatever, a cup or whatever that I'm drinking out of, and I'll say it's a green one. It's just because the glasses that we are wearing are different colors. And in a way, the mix of the 5 questions in us, the dominance of some of these questions in us, makes us look at the world through a color glasses, and therefore we see things in a different way. But it's also that way that we see things that makes us stronger in some ways of doing than in others. So I'll speed up a bit here now. But what we want to do is to align our natural energy with that of our business, because our business also answers these 5 questions in different ways. And in the program, we'll be coming back to these to see how we can align our own strengths, our own natural way, and the dominance in some of these 5 questions in ourselves with that of our business. There's a whole system that I sometimes use in different ways, but if you're interested in this and want to do an online test to show which of the 5 questions or energies are dominant in yourself, you can go to flowcanvas.com/energy. So it's flowcanvas.com/energy, and you can do it. It takes about 20 minutes, and it gives you a report, a very interesting report, giving you some insights in terms of how these 5 energies show up into you. It's related to some philosophies of change that comes from the East, but it's not. We don't need to get stuck into that too much. The practicality of it is these are the 5 questions that show up in us. It's also the 5 questions that we need to cover in our plan, by the way, because it gives us that comprehensive description. So we want to simplify our plan. We need to answer those 5 questions, and we start off by saying there are 2 very important elements here that we want to account for in how we go forward with our business. And the one is that we have ability to do things, and we have opportunities to pursue, and we need to balance those 2 so that we get the right results. And that's a kind of a basic formula that we use throughout as well, described in the form of a graph. The balance between the skill that we have or the capacity that we have in our business and the things that we pursue or the challenges that are out there. So you can imagine that if your skill is very high, you are at the left at the top there, and you pursue opportunities that are low, on the right bottom, high skill, high capacity, low challenge, low opportunity, then you can be bored, you can be disengaged, or sort of that you over design what you do. You've got too much capacity, and if you go on the left top, you have too much. The opportunities you pursue are much bigger than the skills or capacity that you have, and therefore you're probably going to fail. So what we look at in our business planning is to achieve that balance between the 2. But the essence is about answering the 5 questions, and we'll go into much more detail there when we use this tool called the Flow Canvas. But the Flow Canvas combines those 5 questions into a 1-page plan, where there's a shift between the one question and the other, where we create a kind of a cycle in our business that we can look at. So there's a next cycle that we're working towards, and we've got 9 elements to plan for. But that, the detail of all of that, we can cover. The thing is that if you're left with a one-page plan, it's a really practical way of guiding you into your next business cycle and what you must go and do. And when you've gone through that cycle, which could be the month or the week, probably the month, at the end of that, you can review how things have been and where you need to improve. But all of this, all the activities evolve around what you want to achieve, the purpose, which is in the middle of the plan. You can see there on the plan. So I'm not going to talk much now about what this thing is and so on. We don't have the time here today, but we'll do so some other time. I know Mal will talk about the future and where things are heading towards. But that's basically what I wanted to present here today, just as an introduction in terms of giving people a sense of what the kind of tools is that we're going to use from a coaching perspective. So I've said now quite a bit. But I think it's time for us perhaps to turn to questions and practicalities about where things are going to go from here. So I'm not sure if you guys picked up questions from the chat. I know it was erratic because of the tech problems that we've had. But now, can you take us? We've got about 7-8 minutes left today. In terms of where we're going now with the program and what's going to happen and what people can expect.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I would like to apologize once again for this mishap. Hope that next time we will sort out this and not have the same problem again. But in terms of the next step, as everyone is probably aware, this webinar, we invited everyone to participate in this webinar. So that's everyone who applied to the program and anyone who also is just interested in understanding what this NEA is all about. But as a key issue, I think I need to re-emphasize the idea that we are going to, as our, if you like, our monitoring and program so I would advise everyone who has been on the call or who is interested should apply, basically develop that one-page business plan, because that's what we're going to use as a tool for doing the selection. So in terms of going forward, this week we're hoping to finalize. We have placed the NEA has placed for 10 to 15 placements. So this week we will announce the top 20 initiatives that have been shortlisted. And those will help us to develop the one-page business plan. So I know that not many people who are on the call today will follow this up with an email to give a link to the flow canvas and make sure that each one prepares, starts to play around with the flow canvas. Then on the 10th, we are going to have a more detailed webinar session with the 20 shortlisted participants. And that webinar session on the 10th will be a more detailed, if you like, walkthrough on how to use the flow canvas to develop the one-page business. That a few days later, on the 12th, the 20 participants will be expected to submit the one-page business plan, and that's the one we'll be using as a basis to select the 10 participants that will be engaging in the next 9 months. So that announcement will, for the top 10, will happen between the 12th and the 17th. And then on the 17th, we will have a more detailed third webinar or workshop with the 10 participants that have been admitted to the program. And the focus there will be primarily on a needs diagnosis. So each of the entrepreneurs who will be working through their needs, so that we will then inform the monitoring framework for the program and even the design of the support that we will be providing. So that will be from the 17th onwards. Yeah, I think that's basically the way forward as far as
Yeah, great. And that we can communicate by email. So if you didn't get the details there, you can get it in the email. It is important, though. I think sort of we have we've got Gabriel and we've got a few people left in the room.
Yes.
thanks for speaking with us, guys. I know it was today was a bit of an erratic experience. I think I know where the problem lies, and I think it's easily going to be sorted that out for future events. But it's been a first for the three of us, or the four of us, and Kiwi is not here any longer, but she's definitely in the office, busy perhaps setting up that email already that's going out. I know she's very efficient in doing those things. So thank you for joining us, and we're looking forward to the process from here and the selection process and linking up with the 20 and then the 10 that's going to be on the 9-month program. Michael, thank you very much for your time and ongoing support. You know, sort of it may be that the entrepreneurs that will come on the program will need support, but it's also those that are setting up the, but isn't it so hard? You know, sort of persist and not give up on the idea. And so I must say, I admire the persistence that you've had, because I know it's been coming a long way to make this program happen. And I'm sure there will be at least 10, even more entrepreneurs eventually that will benefit from this and go make a difference in the world. So thank you very much for that. With that, we will say, in fact, Mal and Michael, maybe if you can just stay on for a moment, I'll stop the broadcast. But those on the call, please expect the email in your inbox to explain how things will go forward. And go and have a nice day. I hope the spring days last for a few days more here in Cape Town. Goodbye.
Bye. Goodbye.